Tua went to bat to keep Jonnu Smith in Miami. Miami Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa revealed he went directly to general manager Chris Grier in an effort to keep former tight end Jonnu Smith in South Florida. When trade rumors began to swirl around former Miami Dolphins tight end Jonnu Smith, quarterback Tua Tagovailoa made his position clear. He wanted Jonnu to stay a Dolphin. Ultimately, that didn't happen. Smith, along with cornerback Jalen Ramsey, was traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers in a blockbuster deal for safety Minkah Fitzpatrick. Speaking to the media on Wednesday for the first time since the trade, Tagovailoa confirmed just how far he wanted to try and prevent the move. The Dolphins quarterback made it clear he did everything in his power to keep Smith in Miami. Throughout that whole process, I was talking to Jonnu, Tua said. I was trying to figure things out just as he was trying to figure things out through his agent. Then I'd also talk to Chris Grier and whatnot. At the end of the day, there's nothing I can do about it. He did everything he could to put himself in a position to go to the team, negotiate, get all the money that he needed to help provide for his family. We talked about it, and when he did get traded, I texted him. We talked for a little bit. He's my boy. I love Jonnu. That's just how the league works, and that's not going to change the relationship I have with him. Tua's desire for Smith to stay isn't new information, but his comments Wednesday reveal the extent of his lobbying, which included direct conversations with general manager Chris Grier. The bond between the two was evident on the field and was a major reason Smith had the best year of his career in 2024, breaking the franchise records for both receptions and yards by a tight end. Despite all of that, it wasn't enough to stop the Dolphins from shipping Smith to Pittsburgh. What made the Smith situation so unusual? The fascinating aspect of the Smith trade was a significant and public push for him to stay. Tua advocated for him both publicly and behind closed doors. Head coach Mike McDaniel said during mandatory minicamp that he didn't think the team would start the season without him. Furthermore, Smith's agent, Drew Rosenhaus, stated that Smith had repeatedly expressed his desire to remain in Miami. The Dolphins made a decision that they weren't going to do a new deal with Jonnu, and they allowed him to seek a trade rather than force him to play out the last year of his deal. Rosenhaus said during his weekly TV appearance on WSVN 7's Sports Extra following the trade, talented players getting traded during a contract dispute is common. However, it's rare, if not unprecedented. The starting quarterback, head coach, and the player's own agent to all publicly declare their wish for the player to stay. Usually, the player in a contract dispute is on an island. In this case, Smith had the full-throated support of the team's leadership. The business of football. To be clear, just because it was strange that Smith had so much support doesn't mean Miami was wrong to trade him. He wanted a new contract, one he earned with his record-breaking performance last season, but the Dolphins were not in the best position to pay him. Smith's new contract with the Steelers carries an average annual value of $8 million, with approximately $7.74 million guaranteed. The Dolphins were scheduled to pay him about $4 million this season with no guaranteed money. Miami has made a clear shift away from giving contract extensions to older players this offseason, so it's no surprise they balked at paying Smith top 10 tight end money. In the end, the business of the NFL won out over the personal pleas. The Miami Dolphins could cash in on Tyreek Hill early. Here are 3 teams that make the most sense. The Miami Dolphins are expected to have just one more year with Tyreek Hill, and trading him now might be the most sensible solution. Head coach Mike McDaniel and the Miami Dolphins are in a difficult situation. He is on the hot seat. Try and prove the franchise is on the right track while working with a depleted roster. The Dolphins have many holes, particularly on defense, and have already cashed in on 2 veteran stars. Tyreek Hill could be next, as his contract with the franchise is nearing its end. The breakdown. Why a Tyreek Hill trade could or couldn't happen. Why it would happen. The Miami Dolphins are entering a factory reset of sorts as they clear the rosters of some of their older talent, looking to reload in 2026. Terron Armstead retired after 12 seasons, the last 3 of which he spent as a leader in Miami. Veteran defensive end Calais Campbell, who also served as a mentor in 2024, is gone as well after choosing to return to the Arizona Cardinals. Underscore. The Dolphins then traded cornerback Jalen Ramsey and tight end Jonnu Smith to the Pittsburgh Steelers, receiving Minkah Fitzpatrick in return. Underscore. Tyreek Hill is now the only player over 30 on a roster making significant money, and his contract has an out after the 2025 season. Underscore. The wide receiver signed a contract extension in 2024, committing to a 3-year, $90 million deal. The Dolphins can get out of that deal in 2026, but with a strained relationship, it would make sense to cash in now while they can. Underscore. This week, quarterback Tua Tagovailoa'S suggested that Tyreek Hill still had work to do to mend fences after his comments late last year. A frustrated Hill said he was leaving the door open, saying, "I'm out, bro," following the Dolphins' final game of the season, a loss to the New York Jets. Underscore. The star receiver walked back those comments and apologized in February, but Tua made it clear the relationship was a work in progress. Underscore. Instead of trying to build on a shaky foundation, perhaps trading Tyreek Hill to a contender and cashing in on the trade value is a viable solution. He isn't expected to be with the team next season anyway, and Miami does not look like a team capable of contending for the playoffs in 2025. Underscore. Why it wouldn't happen. Underscore. The counter-argument is that both GM Chris Grier and Coach Mike McDaniel are fighting for their jobs in 2025. Underscore. Trading away one of your premier players while trying to prove to ownership that you can win seems counterproductive, especially given the apparent lack of depth Miami has at wide receiver beyond Hill and Jalen Waddle. Underscore. When healthy, Tyreek Hill is one of the most dangerous players in the NFL and can certainly win you multiple games by himself. Underscore. Having him could be enough to salvage a winning record as Tua's top target, while not having him could lead to double coverage on Waddle and teams stacking the box against Miami's explosive run game. Underscore. If McDaniel and Grier are trying to keep their positions, having players like Tyreek Hill on the field is essential, rather than sacrificing them for draft picks you'd be saving for the new GM and coach when you're replaced. Underscore. That said, Miami has already shown it is willing to sell with the Jalen Ramsey trade. This suggests they know they're selling off assets, which some believe is a sign that the front office and coaching staff have been promised more time to rebuild the roster. Underscore. If a Tyreek Hill trade happened, where would he go? Underscore. As the season approaches, there are only a few teams that would serve as viable landing spots for a very expensive superstar receiver. Underscore. Considering Hill's contract, a 3rd or 4th round pick in a trade would give the acquiring team a 1-year rental with extension potential, while the Dolphins would receive a draft pick to better serve their future. Underscore. With that in mind, these are the 3 most likely options. Underscore. Denver Broncos. Underscore. Earlier in the offseason, NFL analysis suggested Miami trade Tyreek Hill to the Denver Broncos. Underscore. This is a team that has built one of the best defenses in the NFL and strengthened it further during the offseason. The defense is solid across the board, led by NFL Defensive Player of the Year Patrick Surtain, too. Underscore. However, the offense still needs more firepower. The Broncos hope to find a more prolific running game in 2025, while hoping some of their receivers step up. Underscore. Bo Nix had an incredible rookie season, but the only proven pass catcher on the roster is Courtland Sutton. As a bigger ex-receiver, pairing him with a speedy playmaker like Hill could make perfect sense. Underscore. Denver has young players in development, but Tyreek Hill is a difference maker, and the Broncos are pushing their chips in on what they believe is a Super Bowl window. Underscore. Detroit Lions. Underscore. The Detroit Lions already have an explosive offense, but they will be adjusting to life without Ben Johnson as their offensive coordinator in 2025. Underscore. Jameson Williams was drafted to be the deep threat in Detroit, but so far his league career has faltered at times. Tyreek Hill would be a welcome addition, offering consistency as the Lions try to take their Super Bowl caliber roster all the way. Underscore. Amon-Ra St. Brown offers volume and versatility, but putting Tyreek Hill on the field would only open up the offense even more. It would mean better opportunities for St. Brown, tight end Sam Laporta, and even the run game, with defenses backing off to avoid being beaten by Hill's speed. Underscore. San Francisco 49ers. Underscore. The San Francisco 49ers are in a bind regarding their wide receiver room at the moment, expecting to be without star Brandon Ayuk for at least part of the season due to a holdout. Underscore. They have already traded Deebo Samuel to the Washington Commanders, which will put a lot of pressure on second-year talents Ricky Pearsall, Jacob Cowing, and rookie Jordan Watkins. Underscore, the 49ers roster might be a contender, but their core pieces like Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle aren't getting any younger. If the franchise wants to make the most of what's left of their prime, they may need to push all in for a run right now. Underscore, trading for Tyreek Hill is a bit different for the Niners than for the other two teams here. They would likely use him for 1 year, while their own group gets healthy, and then probably release him to free agency in 2026. Underscore, with the connection between the Miami Dolphins via Mike McDaniel and the San Francisco 49ers, this is a deal that could be made to suit both sides.